Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about local networks, specifically for cities and other municipalities, and some of the growing pains these networks are facing, including 5G issues. To discuss that, I'm joined by Julius Francis, Senior Director for Security, Automation, and the Networking Business at Juniper Networks. Julius, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, great to be part of this, James. I'm looking forward to talk about this very interesting part of the transport domain.
Definitely. A lot going on in this sector, no question about it. I'm curious because obviously the internet is such a central part of our lives, and there's all sorts of data flowing every which way on some pipes. And sometimes the pipes are either a little aged or they're not set up for the level of data flow because some other issues going on. So as you survey the local metro networks infrastructure, what kind of challenges do you see?
Absolutely. Yeah, very interesting. First of all, I think it's important to understand the context and understand what's about yesterday's metro. I call it retro metro, what's happening there and why this type of changes and challenges we are facing. If you look at the retro
just a short comment in that, if I may, you call it retro metro. I like that. It sounds like you're throwing a little shade at the networks. Maybe they deserve that shade. I'm not sure. Retro metro.
Absolutely. You would see when we took a look at the retro metro, it was mainly an access aggregation network. It basically aggregates all the traffic and shuttle all the traffic all the way to a service nodes that are deeply placed in the network, mostly in the regional location. And it served the purpose, right? But what's happening today is an emergence of cloud, 5G, and Internet of Things. These applications, they're bringing demand for more capacity, elevated quality of experience, and huge number of devices at the edge. And this is coming and putting so much challenges on that retro metro we talk about. Some of the use cases, you may ask, what are those use cases? Why this is different? If you look at the ultra high definition of 4K, 8K video streaming, these are workloads that are moving distributed because of low latency, high capacity needs, augmented reality, virtual reality. These, again, set of workloads moving, getting distributed. Industry 4.0 application, they need fast decision makings, gaming, distributed gaming. So these all require guaranteed quality and low latency on a whole different scale, right? So it requires more of a flexible, intelligent placement of services close to the user. That's one of the reasons these emerging use cases are bringing the workloads close to that network. And make this, I think the analysts are pretty forecasting that metro traffic, that is a traffic that stays in that part of the region, is going to forecast to grow 500% through 2027, right? So
what percentage did you say? Just so I'm
500. It's a 500% over 2027. So that means this is a traffic.
Wow. Okay, that is enormous growth. Area.
Correct.
So that would really suggest these networks are nowhere near the level they need to be.
Exactly. Because those are not built for that purpose, right? So when you think about that, and now you say, all right, these are not built for that, and these emergence of challenges coming, you would think that what is going through operators' mind, right? They are thinking about people, profit, and planet. On the people front, they are asking the question, how do I manage the skills staff shortage that's happening, the human errors, and also the operational complexity that is going to happen in the distributed place where the number of devices and number of service nodes are higher, right? That's a people front.
Right.
And then on the profit front, they're saying they're building the networks for a means to an end. They're asking, how can I assure the service quality of experience and manage a security risk? Because they have to do that in order to introduce these new emerging services and reduce the churn, right? So that's a profit question they asking. And then finally, on the planet front, they're asking, how can I meet the carbon commitments? Looking for sustainability on their networks. So these challenges on system, they're looking at it and saying, okay, how do I tackle these challenges? So these means they have to make decisions on what system they choose, what architectures to build their networks on, and how do they operate their networks. So these are the main challenges they're facing.
Okay. I want to talk about how to address those challenges, but let me back up a moment and for my own clarity. Are you talking about networks that are often publicly funded? These are a city based by a city or municipalities that are supported by tax dollars, or are some of these also commercial private business networks, or a combination of both?
So typically, I think these are operated by the network operators, right? Like telecom operators. They have been providing
Okay.
the services, build their network and provide services for the business, for the residents, and also mobile backhaul, right? So typically, in the past, they have been building this network as a silo, right? One for the residential,
Gotcha.
one for the business, one for the mobile backhaul, and that's it. But now, with the emergence of these type of new services, they can't keep on building silo network. They have to build one converged network, and they have to deliver it all these services of today and tomorrow on the same network.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's the entity that is actually creating the network is large telecoms, and we would probably know their names. They're household names, and in theory, they know they need to invest in this because the need is coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the best way for managers and administrators or the telecom companies themselves to address these problems. I mean, what can they do to keep up with what is an overwhelming demand?
Absolutely. I mean, as I mentioned, if you look at the Retro Metro, it's just a dumb pipe, right? That's how they have it operating, and
right.
They serve the purpose.
Yep.
Now, I call that new metro a cloud metro, is expected to reimagine how they build and how they operate. So the cloud metro need to transform the point-to-point networks into a versatile IP service fabric that enables any service, any place, any device on this converged network. And they need to support all these distributed emerging applications. So what that means is now they have to tackle the first people concerns, right? I talked about earlier, and they think automation has the power to bring operational efficiencies. So these automation, it must be use case based, right? Operators need to move away from point products to outcome driven use cases. They need, it must be AI enabled, right? Operation needs to move from more of a reactive to predictive models. So many operators are now looking at AI, ML as a way of automation frameworks to keep learning every day and gets better and in predicting issues over time. And also, it must be cloud delivered, right? Operators used to buy these products, they deploy it, do it yourself type of model. They have to move to a more of a power of consuming it as a service, but it's definitely a journey because moving from on-prem to cloud-based SaaS model, they're not comfortable in multiple levels, right? First, they are looking at data sovereignty. They are looking at their comfort level in approaching some of the use cases. So it is a journey. Many of the use cases are going to move to cloud services, but it's going to be a hybrid model, on-prem and cloud delivered. But definitely it's a direction to manage the complexity, especially in the metro, right? And the second part is about tackling the profit front we talked about earlier. It must be converged network, right? Because silo network, as I mentioned earlier, it's not going to work because the sheer number of services is going to be a lot more, right? And it must be assurance native. You cannot just build a network and just leave it that like yesterday, but this cloud metro needs to be assurance, right? The network need to be service aware and they have to become experience sensors to be able to measure the quality of experience. And also it has to be secure, right? In the days of security threats, service operators need to place these services, which are revenue generating services, on a secure infrastructure, right? Finally, I will just on the planet front, right? Sustainability is top of mind for many companies.
Right.
So
totally.
Yeah, the systems needs to be power efficient, space efficient, has to last longer for them, and also have to be able to provide that higher capacity and performance on different form factors. So operators in this in order to address these challenges need to rethink on multiple front on systems and architectures and the operations. So if we really look at it and step back and look at it with these new challenges and new set of expectations, it needs a new category of solutions. So we call that a cloud metro.
Let's drill down into that. I know there's Juniper's Cloud Metro. I'm presuming it is partially an AI and ML offering, but let's talk about how does Juniper's Cloud Metro help with these challenges? What kind of difference does it really make?
Absolutely. I think the Juniper Cloud Metro solution addresses all that: people, profit, and planet holistically. And we offer, if you look at the Cloud Metro, because it applies the cloud principles of how we architect, how we build, and how we operate. So on the let's take an operational front. So Juniper Paragon Automation, a portfolio of cloud-native, experience-driven software application that automates a full life cycle of the network and services that placed on it. And it is use case-based. As I mentioned, it's AI ops enabled and supporting both on-prem and cloud delivery, because we need to support that hybrid model and the journey. The idea is to dramatically reduce the tedious manual tasks and enable the both end user experience, which operators are there to deliver that, and also the operators' experience itself. That is also very important. So that's at the operational front. Through Paragon Automation, we deliver that. On the system front, Juniper's ACX 7000 family designed to bring more capacity and service intelligence to the metro edge. So if you look at the ACX 7000 family, it leverages latest generation of merchant chipset, and also it leverages modern system designs and new energy and efficiencies to deliver the high performance and capacity I talked about, with less power and space efficiencies that it bring in. On the architectural front, Juniper take a different approach. It's all about delivering a converged IP service fabric. What we have done is we have done few innovative approach to that. We have embedded the Paragon Active Assurance, which is a test agent sits built into the Junos OS Evolve in every ACX 7000 platform. So it's built in. So what that means is when the service is activated, it starts measuring the quality and make remediative actions. So we turn the metro network into a service sensor. And also we applied the zero trust security throughout the cloud network service fabric, right? It's important. We talked about, let's say, security is important. So the Dev ID and TPM module and secure ZTP and MACsec, we are bringing trust into every layer, all the way from software, hardware, and the data layer.
Interesting about zero trust. It has become such an interesting trend. It's really getting adoption quickly. I want to go back a little bit to the idea of the AI and ML piece. And you talked about the earlier networks. You kind of refer to them as dumb pipes, assuming that I assume they were not helped by AI. Seems like we've gotten to a point where network traffic, where those dumb pipes are no longer an option. We definitely need artificial intelligence to help with routing and with security. It's no longer just a nice to have. It feels like the networks themselves literally cannot keep up without the assistance of artificial intelligence. Agree, disagree?
Absolutely. If you look at, we talked about sustainability, space efficiency, systems and architecture and operations. Imagine we are talking about a distributed network and distributed services that's deployed. Imagine if there is degradation, if the current model is reactive. If something goes on, a truck rolls, right? Truck rolls go into each site and touch multitudes of devices and service endpoints. Imagine if that complexity, as we roll out more services, is increasing. If you have to move into predictive nature, that means before the hotspots emerges, before the system failure happens, the operators may be able to make remediate actions with AI ops type of model. That will not only bring operational efficiencies, but also sustainability. Energy efficiencies.
All right, well, let's look to the future then. I mean, I think that companies involved with these networks and users too, they're concerned about where is this going? You know, how can we get it in better shape? And what do you see as the future of network infrastructure? Some developments, maybe the growth of edge computing. What do you see in the years ahead?
Absolutely, and the landscape of new digital experience and the distributed networks and services, enabling a great change before our eyes, and it's going to elevate how we build, how we live, how we learn, how we work. So these emergence of next generation distributed services definitely brings new challenges to the operators. But we can get there, right? We can embrace these, as we talk about, address these challenges. Operators need to take a new approach, a more of a sustainable approach on the operations and systems and architecture. So I see a few developments to expect, right? You see the automations to start leveraging AI ops, as I talked about, to move into a more of a cloud, and also move into a cloud delivered model. So as operators needs to start consuming automation as a service. So you see that type of development happens in the automation, to address the operational complexity. And also on the system front, you would start to see higher and higher capacities because the capacity needs to continuously grow up. But as the systems offer these high capacities, they start delivering lower power efficiencies, but they have to bring efficiencies on the power and space front because it is a sustainable approach that's needed. And also the networks need to be converged, right? And the networks also now evolving, not just mere pushing packets. Networks are becoming sensors of service awareness and also more secure, have a better secure posture. So definitely Cloud Metro presents an incredible opportunity for service providers to redefine their business and their role in the digital ecosystem, because this is the real opportunity present in front of them.
Yeah, interesting. I used to hear the term software-defined network quite a bit, and it sounds like you are talking about a software-defined network because of the presence of AI and ML, and the earlier dumb pipes were not software-defined network. Is that a phrase? Are people in the network industry still using the phrase software-defined network? Is that still a hot term?
There's definitely. I mean, software-defined term came a decade ago. Now it's the way the networks are getting operated. It's software defined, right?
So it's almost, we don't even need the adjective. We don't call it a gas automobile. It's just an automobile or electric automobile. Okay, I get it. So it's okay. Interesting.
Yeah, because the systems are highly programmable nowadays. Every layer of the system is operated with high efficiencies. The software defined and the automation is part of how network operators are moving. And only thing is, what we are seeing is that software defined, the automation capabilities are now taken to a different level with the AI ops.
Interesting. Well, Julius, I think you said it. A lot of fascinating stuff, and certainly some improvements are needed in those networks. I will be looking forward to see what happens in that sector. Thank you so much for sharing your insight today, and please come back and talk with us again sometime.
Thank you, James. It's a great pleasure talking to you. It's an interesting area to watch, definitely.